Hi, I'm Jaimee Francis, a features writer at JURIST and a first-year law student at Boston University. Today, I'll be interviewing Ukraine correspondent Nastya Moysenko to get her unique perspective on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is part of an ongoing series of interviews with our Ukraine correspondents, who include law students and young lawyers with ties to Ukraine. Nastya is originally from Kiev and is currently living in Moldova. Nastya, will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Nastya Moysenko. I am a law student from the Kiev National University. I study international law for the second year. And well, that's basically it, the basic introduction.
Yeah, so do you mind telling us more about what your life was like before the invasion?
It was quite ordinary. I was taking part in a moot court competition at my university, which was a bit of boring, but at the same time, it gave me a lot of experience, like law-related experience. I was meeting up with my friends, doing my homework at university, and basically the life was very, very normal. So kind of what I'm hoping to return to quite soon.
Yeah, so how did you first learn that the invasion had begun, and what were your initial thoughts about it?
I learned about it from my group chat with group mates from university. So just before the war began, my family and I traveled to another city. And we were planning to return to Kiev on 25th or 26th of February, so just a day or two after the war actually began. And I remember that I woke up on the 24th of February, or before 7 a.m. I opened that chat, and I saw that my group mates at 5 a.m. were writing something. And I was like, well, that looks very weird. And then I read like the questions like, did you hear the explosion? Did you hear the bombs? And like, that's when it came to me that the war began. And like the first emotions were, it felt like you clashed with this brutal reality. So basically you were trying to, I knew that there was a possibility that the war might begin, but still it was more like this feeling that Russia was threatening us, nothing more. But the 24th of February was a whole new chapter to our history. So it was like, first it was the feeling of emptiness, then anger, and well, like it was a roller coaster of everything.
Yeah, so how has your life changed since then?
Well, it's I had to like at first it changed because of course I felt a lot of different things, and the most significant change was this loss of feeling of safety at first. Then it was like a constant worrying about someone close to you, and even someone whom you don't know, but still like, you know, that people who share the same backgrounds with you, they also are in constant danger. And then it somehow, personally for me, it calmed down a bit, because like I'm from Kiev, everyone I know is from Kiev. And right now Kiev is more or less safe. I mean, it's not really safe, but there are no more bombings inside of it. And kind of I'm more or less relieved that everyone whom I know is alive, is unharmed physically, more or less in a safer place. So I can't complain right now, personally, for myself or for anyone I know. But of course, like as a whole, I like a bit of disappointed with life when it's when you think about that I've come too close to war, and so now it feels a bit of weird. Sorry, a bit of a that was a strange answer.
No. When you're talking about how you feel like people are in a safer space now, do you mean that people have left Kiev and moved to other cities, or that people have returned to Kiev and it's now safe to return?
Well, it's not exactly safe to return, but I know that a few people whom I know, they are in Kiev right now. And they say that compared to a few weeks ago, what it was like, now they feel like safer. So the life is turning back to normal. However, they still they say it's not the best time to return right now. So it's dangerous on the road because there are some maybe there are some mines or and also like people who are afraid of alarms or air alerts. So it's not the best city to be in, but still, fortunately, I haven't heard of any new residential buildings being accidentally hit by any sort of missile or rocket, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I know that you're currently in Moldova, and so do you know of any plans to ensure that those who left will be able to easily return home in the future?
Well, I don't know about Moldova in particular, but it's, as far as I know, it's quite easy to return, crossing the border. So that's basically it. And talking about Moldova helping Ukrainians in general. So there's quite a lot of help from the volunteers, though my family hasn't used it because mom is working online for her Ukrainian boss. I'm studying online at my Ukrainian university, and so financially we are independent from the help. But I know that a lot of Ukrainian refugees leave their home without without a husband who can provide for a family. And so there are a lot of mothers with small children. They have no job and they find it here somehow. So fortunately, they get some help that they need and deserve.
Yeah, do you have any type of knowledge or insight into if you think refugees eventually will return, or do you think that some of these people will not return? And if so, how do you think the future of Ukraine will be impacted by this exodus of people?
Well, I think that most Ukrainians will return because even those who weren't patriotic before the war, now the feelings have changed. The war, as terrible as it is, it showed our nation as something very unique, at least right now. And so I think that a lot of people feel this, feel an urge to come back, to help to restore the country, to just feel that you are a part of it. But of course, there are still people who will use this as an opportunity to find a better life somewhere else. So I can't judge them if they prefer this kind of lifestyle. But still, I think that the majority will return. I will return. I don't know about other people whom I know. So for example, my close friends who are now in Portugal, they are planning to come back when it's safe. I can answer for them. So that's it.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Moldova has been particularly helpful, and you said you have friends in Portugal. And so I was wondering, what are your thoughts about how other nations around the world have responded to the invasion?
Well, actually, when you ask such a question, the first nation that I think about is actually Russia. So when the war began, I was so convinced that the Russians would rebel against the government, and I thought that I don't believe that we are the brotherly nations, like they used to say that Ukrainians, Russians, and Belarusians are three brother nations. I thought that, maybe using this slogan, they would say that we won't let our army kill the innocent. And however, I was very disappointed when nothing happened. And moreover, every time that I check the news and I see anything related to life inside Russia, it's this letter Z, like, or V. So like an new swastika, but just like properly Russian one. So I'm like, I don't rely on them at all now, but it was very like, now I realize that it was very naive of me to think that such a terrible event as war, as a murderous war, would prompt them to act. And talking about other nations, I think that what's most like overwhelming is the amount of support that ordinary people show, like not the governments themselves, but just the citizens of different countries in America, in Europe, in Asia, and I think even in Australia. They just come to like they go in the central streets, or at least they went to the central streets in the first few weeks, and there were huge protests against the aggression. And well, it showed like, that Ukraine is finally famous for something, though it's like, it's a terrible event, but like the world cares about us, like about the injustice.
Yeah, so what I know you talked a lot about how you want to return and how this has been a really big turning point in Ukraine's history. So what are your hopes for the future of Ukraine? What do you think it looks like, and what would you like it to look like?
Well, I believe in Ukraine's victory, though I don't know at all when it will happen, and I don't know how more lives will be lost. But like, I'm really convinced that it will win, that it will become like the symbol of democracy in the 21st century. Like for the nearest future, it will be like this fresh reminder of fighting for freedom. And I think that it will be like, it will be closer to Europe now. Like Europe will accept it more. At least I hope that it will. Like maybe it will indeed become the part of the EU and so on. But at the same time, like even when the war ends, Russia will still be here as a neighbor. It will still be like the largest state in the world. And even if something happens to Putin, there is still so much corruption, so many politicians who are basically who have no escape from Russia. And I'm worried that they will still be in power, and we will still be a much smaller state, a neighboring state. And so I can't predict what the peace will look like and how exactly those who are responsible will be brought to The Hague, because like everyone says that there will be a war tribunal, but to have a war tribunal, there has to be someone like responsible for this, standing physically before the judges and the prosecutors. And I'm like, sadly, but I believe that this justice won't be really served in the right way.
What is your idea of how justice could be served?
Well, this situation is very complicated, and I think that what we see, like the sanctions, that's like basically the only way that the Russians can feel like the pain financially. You know, it's not at all the same with what is going on to the victims in Ukraine. But except for that, like I doubt that any country will send some missiles to bomb the shelters of Putin and kill him. So it's very unrealistic. And I don't think that there will be any kind of spy who will poison him. So unfortunately for the real culprit, well, not for the real culprit, but for like the most notorious one, for Putin, for his closest cronies, for his like military aides, I think that they will just be really like hiding in their shelters, and that's it.
What are you most looking forward to when you're thinking about going back to Kiev?
Oh, meeting my friends physically, I mean, just seeing them face to face and walking the central streets. That's like basically it.
Do you know,
just once again remembering what it's like to be there.
yeah, do you know how much of the city has changed since the beginning of the invasion, and how much needs to be rebuilt?
Well, I know that the center of Kiev is, I think it's okay. But of course, other parts, like not central ones, but on the left bank, also on the right bank, there were some quite big damages to residential buildings, including to the roads, to some warehouses, if I'm not mistaken. So, like culturally, Kiev is more or less okay right now. But yeah, still, other parts have been damaged. Though I hope, fortunately, personally, my house wasn't hit by anything. So I think that in that part, it's more or less the same.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Nastya. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Well, I mean, I don't think so. Hopefully the war will end soon and all will be good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.